everyone, and welcome to the Nick Delinski Show. This is Scott Kerker, along with Metamore head coach Nick Delinski. Coach, you took the road trip. You went over to East Peoria last week to Eastside Center, one of the neatest little stadiums around. It's always nice to play there. And East Peoria, kind of a pretty decent team. They're a lot better than their record probably even shows.
Well, offensively, they got that quarterback's as good as anybody in the conference, and we can say that it seems like every week we bring up a quarterback and a quarterback and a quarterback. Luckily, we think we have a really, really good one too that I wouldn't trade. But my kid's a 2-year starter basically. Could definitely spin it and fling it all over the place, and they do a really good job of hiding number 6, who's a pretty good receiver, and moving him into some different spot. Yeah, and got him on a couple things, but no, I mean they're doing a lot of really good things there, and I think the one thing that for them is it's a numbers game over time. Yeah. They still don't have what they need, to really get through a full 4 quarters. And one thing we were able to do is kind of wear on them through the first quarter, second quarter, and then midway through the second quarter, we kind of offensively were able to take over, and then defensively made a few more tackles, made a few more coverage plays, and we're able to get the ball back and go score when we had opportunities.
We'll get to the offensive side here in just a minute, but I thought defensively your team started to really play well, like you said, in that second quarter. And then from the middle of that second quarter all the way through the end of the game, even when you started making some substitutions, I thought your defense really played well.
Well, I mean, it's a work in progress. I mean, we're running out of work days, though, as we're currently at. But, our guys are working hard at it. Coaches are working hard. The kids are playing hard. And, the screen's a real good call. They scored on. That was a really good call. We like screens too for a reason. We call them at the right time. It's pretty tough. But we talked about it was towards Kylan's side. If he had been a little bit more press coverage, might have been able to beat the first block, and then we're in a better place. The second one was on motion with a wheel up the sideline, and we just didn't quite get with the wheel enough. So we talked about, well, can we make adjustments to how we want to cover motion, which put us in coaching-wise, made us have to make some changes, which were adjustments we made in the second quarter and then really the second half. And then the third one, their third touchdown, we just missed a tackle. Steven's got an opportunity to make a tackle, and actually Caleb knocks Steven off on the way over. And but those things happen, but we know our kids were in the right place. We just got to make sure when we get there we finish the job. And it's kind of, again, we were better on third down after the first 2 drives that they had, and then that's kind of been our calling card this week. Make sure we get to the right place, get there with some bad intentions, and finish the play when you're there.
The other thing too that I thought was really important for you is when they did score, your special teams either scored or set us up to score. It did a really nice job.
Yeah, I mean, we had a big argument over when the last time we had a kickoff return, and this one was a lot easier because Kylan had one, and then we followed one up with Braden Cox, and Jason Pickles had a really, really good return to set us up in plus territory as well. So we felt that we've been close a couple weeks. Yep. We got a lot of talent back there with the 3 guys, and and Jadon wasn't even back there last week. So we do like all 3 or 4 guys. You can talk about Braden, Kylan, and Jason, and then Jadon being the 4th to be able to rotate those guys through. But when your special teams can put yourselves in midfield or plus territory, and how aggressive we are offensively, it's 4-down territory from then on. Then you got real good opportunities to go score points.
I thought the other thing too is your offensive line. I thought your offensive line did a really nice job of getting your backs into, giving them a chance to get into the secondary and let their athleticism kind of take over.
Yeah, I thought we had another good week up front. Coach Otto grades them each week, and I think we were 80% or 85% plus with all of our guys up front. So, that means that's, making sure that we're executing the scheme, make sure you finish your block and get to where you're supposed to be. So he does a really good job of, reporting and letting those kids know exactly where they were at the end of the week. And so, yeah, it's again another step. And East Peoria is not small. I mean, they had some big kids up front.
Big boys.
And, they got some linebackers that play downhill in a hurry, but we got to where we needed to, and then if we can get any of our guys, for the most part, our ball carriers to the second level to get a one-on-one, we like our opportunity to make wins. And Jason Pickles got one, and then Jadon obviously had 6.
Yeah, the thing that kind of impressed me a little bit about your offensive line was you had Jadon getting outside, and he does a lot of moves. He's inside, he goes outside. And that is really tough for an offensive lineman. We had no holding penalties in that game.
Well, when we can get vertical, and that's what we talk about in our blocking scheme, depending on what it is, it's either vertical or a little bit slight angled. Whatever Jadon does shouldn't really affect the reach and the stretch if we're getting on them right away and getting to that first, second level, and that's what we did a real good job of. And then when Jadon gets to the second and third level, then it's creativity time. And we talk as ball carriers, like, you know, for your teammates, it's 4, right? You got to go get your 4 for your teammates, and then after 4, you can go get your own a little bit. And Jadon's been really good at that, no doubt.
Yeah, he's been really good. And you mentioned it, but Jadon, 6 touchdowns. That's got to be a program
So
record.
I checked with Coach Ryan. He believes that 2 other players have had 6 in a game. So he didn't give me names, but those are things I'll look into as well. But if it's not the record, he's tied it. But no, I mean, he put himself in a good place, and you know, might have had a chance at 7 if we would have put him on kickoff return, or if we don't score a kickoff return there, he might have got to 7. But no, 6 is a pretty good day and a half of work, and you know, he's a real good player.
I remember Joe Stam getting 5, and I believe back in '99 down at Normal Community playoff game, semifinal playoff game maybe. I believe he had 5 in that game.
I know we scored a lot, enough points to win that one, that's for sure. And Joe had a real good day. And but yeah, I'd have to talk to Coach Ryan. I mean, he's outside of you. I mean, like you two could probably sit down and be able to figure out exactly who it is. But he thought that there were 2 others with 6. But Coach Gunther, he sent me a message asking if anybody's had 6. So it's obviously a number that's not done very often.
No.
It's pretty special, that's for sure.
Pretty special, and he got him quick too, didn't he?
And it didn't take a whole lot of carries for him to get to 6 on Friday night.
181 yards rushing.
I think he had 15 carries and 6 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I think he got tackled twice.
Yeah,
So,
that was pretty solid.
couple times running out of bounds on his own. So.
Yeah. But you know, for him to get that 181 yards, your line's got to do a good job. You know, Steven's got to make the reads. He does a nice job. Everybody's got to kind of contribute their little bit on every one of those plays, and man, they have been the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, we've put together a nice little run here, you know, since the Washington game, and you know, I've had a couple people ask, you know, what has changed. I said, well, I think Washington really made us have to go back and reevaluate exactly where we were offensively. One, is there anything that we could do to put our kids in a better position to be successful? You know, and so we took back and went a couple back years and just kind of looked through some film that we'd done in the past and kind of brought back a few schemes that we hadn't run for a while that helped us, and Jadon helps that as well because he's got really good vision. But Mark's ran the ball really, really well, and Keon, when he's, you know, hopefully we get Keon back here soon from his broken finger. We sound like we had some good news today, so it's just going to be kind of getting him back up to speed, kind of thing. But you know, those guys run the ball really well, and they've all got pretty good vision. They all kind of bring a little bit different. You know, Keon being the heaviest and can hammer it up in there when he gets his pad level down. Mark's a physical runner. There's no doubt he runs behind his pads. And then Jadon's got a little bit of everything in him.
Yeah.
So, you know, and finished a couple runs Friday night, you know, with the pad level down. And we're going to need a lot of that, you know, in the next couple, you know, weeks as we go along. So,
and we'll talk about Dunlap coming up here in a minute. But when you went into that game Friday night, when you go into any game, do you have in your mind, okay, we're going to have to run the ball, we're going to have to be effective between the tackles to win, or is tonight going to be the night where we have to throw the ball to get the win?
Well, I mean, we're going with a game plan each week of kind of everywhere around, right? We're kind of equal on what we want to do. Now, obviously, we're never going to be a 50-50 pass-run group, most likely. But do we have enough, we think, in our passing game each week to give us a chance? Absolutely. And between that and RPOs, you never know. Like in an RPO, it's just like the old school veer and midline, right? Is it a fullback's week or is it the quarterback's week on a midline or veer? And, you know, some weeks it's going to be a lot of RPO throws, and other weeks they're going to take that away and it's going to be the give. So we go in each week with a plan for sure. And then, you know, we get a pretty good feel after a drive or two about where we're at and what we can do and what we need to adjust and what is it that we need to find the next series or the next drive to give us the looks that we need. So, but I mean, we spend plenty of time on both sides of everything, and we want to have everything available to us, you know, on a Friday night. But there are certain nights where you're like, man, going in, like these guys are pretty stout up front. We're going to probably have to get off the edge a little bit more. And does that mean we're running buck, or does that mean we're running sweep, or does that mean we're going to have to throw the ball a little bit more with our screens, or is it going to be getting vertical with those guys? So, yeah, I mean, we do a pretty good job. Coach Simmons and Coach Otto and Coach Urban and I, when we get together, you know, Coach Ali, like, do a pretty good job of breaking down film and trying to figure out where it is that we're going to need to be successful each week.
The other thing, too, is, you know, Two things. I think that, you've come out in the last few weeks and you throw that slant pattern to either Bittner or to Pickles or whoever you need to throw it to. Those have just been outstanding. It's really loosened up the defense. And the other thing too is when you throw deep, I'm not so sure there's a better quarterback in this area at throwing the deep ball than Stephen Petrie.
He's done a pretty good job of it. We thought we should have got the one to Kylan 2 weeks ago, and Kylan kind of lined up wrong. So we talked about that. Made a real good throw. We thought Braden pulled that one in from our view. It looked like he caught it until just couldn't see it over the head. But no, Stephen does a good job. Stephen can throw. He's got the ability to make every throw. He can put it in there. He can layer it in soft. Obviously, he can throw the fastball. I mean, he's a wonderful baseball player. But the slants, it's all part of that RPO scheme, and people got to make choices on how are you going to defend the backside. Are you going to insert defensively in the run game to come after Jadon, or are you going to sit back and take away the slant or the dig route, or like we get the one to Jason, just a simple little hitch off of the buck action. You got to make a decision. How are you going to handle it? If you're going to come hard off the edge and leave the flat, we get it out to one of our playmakers. They got a chance to go make a play, and it's our job then as coaches when we have the ability to get pretty much the whole field figured out with a guy as a threat. We just got to figure out which one it's going to be and make sure that we get the right plays called at the right times to give our kids the best chance.
And they've been making some plays for you.
Yeah, they have been. And you can talk about the O-line, but that does, takes a little bit of the stress of the box and how many are in there. And but no, those are all things that we just keep working on each week. And we change it a little bit. I mean, it's pretty much all the same vocabulary, but we get in a different formation, or can we motion to get there to kind of change things up?
Yeah, you talk about all the different formations and all the different things, and you watch this team play, and each and every week you start seeing different things and how much they've grown since that first week of the season, which seems like a long time ago, but it's gone by awfully quick. But they've gotten a little bit better each and every week, and it's got to be pretty rewarding as a coach to know that we can do things now we may not have been able to do that first week.
Well, yeah, and that's part of the maturity, right, of the team growing. And, can we make some more audibles? And not only Steven see the audible, can we get it communicated to the O-line handle that we're making an audible call? Be it we're going to flip sides, or we're going to change the play totally, all those sort of things. To be able to communicate to get there, it's a process, right? I mean, like, start baby steps, and then you keep adding, and hey, if we get this look, we want to check to this. But you got to have everybody on board, right? You can't just be me and Steven, or Steven sees something, or Coach Otto sees it. We got to make sure that all 11 are on board, and we've gotten better each week at communicating what it is, what changes we want to make, or what adjustments. And Steven sees things that he can tell the wide receivers, hey, let's do this instead of what maybe Coach called, because we've got abilities to throw the ball where they ain't, kind of thing, and he can make that adjustment on his own.
Do you audible much in a game? In an average game, do we audible much?
Not much. I mean, we'll make some, change plays one side or the other, depending on the look. Occasionally we'll change maybe, if we want this RPO. Occasionally Steven's been able to change it to a different one, or instead of running a bunch of 4 verticals, he can put one of the guys on a dropout. But to say that we do a whole bunch of audibling, not so much. Steven called the series. We got into our double loose package, and he was able to call that series on his own. He just kind of had an idea of what it is that we wanted to see. When he got that look, then he knew what plays to check to.
How did he do?
Fine. I mean, we had the incompletion on one, and then we got to 3rd and 7 or something, so I called the play, and then it was back at it for him. So, but it's more about him understanding what we want. Not only is it necessarily that he needed a drive where he's calling things, it's more about now he sees why we call what we call. And then he understands, and then we're all together. But the touchdown pass to Jason, he came over the sideline. He's like, hey, can we throw this RPO? And I was like, absolutely. I saw the same thing. And goes out and he throws the RPO, gets tipped. Jason makes a great catch, and then giddy up. There he goes.
Great block out there. Yeah. I believe that was
Kylan again.
Kylan, yeah.
He's blocked very well. Him and Braden, really all of our receivers, whoever's out there, have done a really, really good job of blocking. We talked about a week 1 where Kylan and Jason both got Wood Awards as the best blocks of the night, at the wide receiver spot.
Why don't we take a break? When we come back, we'll talk a little bit about your upcoming game with Dunlap. We'll talk a little bit more about the playoffs, and those pairings come out this weekend. So we'll talk a little bit more about that.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to the Nick Delinski Show. Before we go on, I want to thank Jake and Sarah Atkins for allowing us to do the game, or do the show from here. Coach, player of the week last week.
We went with Jadon. I mean, 6 touchdowns is an awful lot.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things. It's kind of hard to overlook that one. So
yeah.
very special player. 16 touchdowns in 3 years versus East Peoria, between sophomore, junior, and senior year. I mean, that's a season for like a career. In every game, and he's been able to do that in 3 games versus them. But obviously, he had a real good night, and we took a lot of, we talk about offensive like players of the game. We get 20 points, it's one guy. We get 40 points, we get 2, and you get 60, you give out 3 T-shirts, and it's kind of fun to give out 3 T-shirts.
Yeah, for sure. Coach, big game this week against Dunlap. Dunlap comes in, they're riding a 2-game losing streak. They don't want to go in with a 3-game losing streak into the playoffs, but they come to Malone Field this Friday.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be another big test. I mean, they're probably, we haven't had this test probably since Morton, with Pekin where they were injury-wise coming in.
Yeah.
So we got our work put up, and they beat Pekin by 1 in overtime when Pekin was full strength, except for the Anderson kid. 1-point game last week with Morton. They ended up not pulling that one out, and Morton did. But, I mean, it's a big and it seems like every year we're in this week 9 and we're kind of in the same boat.
Yeah.
Battling somewhere. Either a couple of years ago it was like playoff seeding. One of us getting to 6, one getting to 5. But no, we've got a lot on the line, because as much as they do, because you got to get on that seed line, and it changes a whole lot. I mean, it's a big difference. But, Max Sutter comes to town, an awful good player, an Alabama commit. Got to know where he's at all times. And then they've just been doing enough to get wins in some games. And then, defensively they're all right. They've made some plays early, and then but they held, Morton to 20 points. So they're playing really, really well there as well. So I know Coach Castle said at the beginning of the year that they were really excited about their defensive front, and they thought people would struggle to run the football on them. So obviously they feel really good about where they're at defensively. So a lot on the plate to make sure that we take care of our business. And but when you come to Malone, got to have that mindset that, we're going to defend it with everything we got, and, put as much out there as we can. And I think the kids will be ready to play.
You come in, you're getting healthier, so that's a plus. I think you're playing some of the best ball of the season, which is this where we want to start getting to a better spot. But I think you guys have been playing awfully well so far. But you're right, Dunlap poses some things that are a little bit different. They've got an all-world tight end in Max Sutter. Alabama recruited him for a reason. Just about every Big Ten in this area.
Just about everywhere. There weren't many places that didn't have an offense.
Yeah. So he's definitely their showpiece player, and he should be. And that does pose some problems. You've got to try and shut him down.
Well, you got to find where he's at. And they've done a real good job of moving him around. If it's a tight end, a wide receiver, he's at H-back. So they try to get creative ways to get one-on-one matchups, just like we all do. Same as, we try to get Jay down as many one-on-ones as he can, either in the passing game or one-on-one with the safety or whatever it might be. But, yeah, Max is a real good player, but 2 running backs they got is probably as good of a tandem as anybody in the conference in terms of they're both very similar. They keep them both fresh. So that's another issue. And then they're big up front again. I mean, it's just another team with big guys. And that's the way it's going to be from here on out. I mean, they're real good linemen. And defensively, they got a guy in there at 295 pounds. It's a good space eater. Sutter's playing 1 defensive end. The other 2 guys are returning starters. They got 2 returning starters at linebacker. They got 2 returning starters at safety. And the 2 corners played on and off last year as juniors. So they're bringing back I think they got 9 of 11 on defense or 8 of 11, depending on our seniors.
Like that,
So it's a pretty senior-driven team. So, they're seasoned. They got in the playoffs last year and almost pulled off a big upset round 1. And so obviously,
Oakland Richards?
Yep. So we've got a lot of work to do to make sure that we come out on the winning edge this Friday night.
For sure. And, and their other receiver, other than Sutter, is pretty solid, too.
I mean, they got a full complement, that's for sure.
Starting Saturday, you'll find out who you play in the playoffs.
Yep.
And it looks like you're probably still going to be 4A.
From everything that we've kind of looked at, we'll be pretty comfortably in 4A, and it'll be a 4A North send.
4A North, which is what you kind of thought for a few weeks now.
Probably week 4 on,
Yep. What's your feel about, you probably have a somewhat of a guess, an educated guess, on who you might play?
Well, a lot of it's dependent on
Yeah.
Friday night. 8-1
On both
different.
sides.
Yeah, I mean 8-1 and 7-2 is a big difference. So 8-1 is probably going to get you a top 4 seed, which then means that, you're going to be drawing a 14 or a 15 type team, depending on what everybody else is seed wise. But that can always be a little tricky and dicey.
Yes.
We've been a 1 seed and ended up with a 16 seed named Joliet Catholic.
Yeah, that was not fun.
That was not fun at all. So obviously, getting a home game is the most important thing first, right? So we think we're in a position no matter what happens Friday night. But 8-1 gets you into a spot where you get yourself a better chance to get to the third round, which is kind of, that's not our goal, but that's where we've kind of got stuck up at after the second round, to get that opportunity to get to the quarters and see what you can do when you get there. And there's a lot of big names that'll be up there, your Morrises and your Montinis, your Rochelles, your Geneseos. Like a lot of Sterling is probably going to fall into 4A.
And they've been playing a lot better.
A lot better. So there's names that people are going to recognize. But it's been a long time since we've been in 4A. And then it's even been crazier that we'd go 4A North and not 4A South.
Yeah.
So just kind of things have changed in the IHSA and where they're at. But obviously, the more wins, the better you're going to be, and it keeps you away from some spots, and you try to find ways to manipulate it to get yourself 2 home games, or maybe a home game and an away game, and then a home game for the quarters.
Nice.
All those things are a possibility, but the 8 wins gets you a much better chance at that.
And, you got to get in. First off, you have to get in, and you've done that. And now it's jockeying for position, and then all you can ask for is a chance.
Correct.
And you guys get on a roll, and good things can happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think we got some kids that are hungry. We've matured, and then you got to run into somebody at some point. There's probably people also looking on the bracket that's going, boy, I don't know if we want Metamora. I don't know if that's the seed line that we want to be in either. So we got to build off that, and but it's 1 week at a time. We've talked about that, and now it's in that time where we felt like we've kind of been in playoff mode for the last 3 or 4 weeks, depending on who we're playing on. Can we knock them out of the playoffs, or make sure that they've got to go get their playoff win against somebody else? You're Pekin. That was East Peoria. So, that's kind of where we're looking at. So, it's just kind of wait after Friday night and see where we're at. And I'll probably crunch a bunch of numbers on Saturday for a long waste of time that it won't matter anyway. And got that JV game Saturday morning over at Dunlap, and we'll get through that. And then, seedings come out at 8. We'll probably hear ours at about 8:50, and then make a few phone calls, find some film, and away we go.
It's kind of fun, isn't it?
There's nothing better. We love the game of football. Talked to the kids today about, I thought we had a really good practice, and I just said, sometimes you got to step back and say, this is really fun. And I'm like, I know that we get after you, and we like to say encourage you loudly, but it's fun. And you should enjoy this time with your teammates, because there's going to be teams after Friday that are turning their gear in, and they don't get to practice again. So every time you get to come out here, you got to make sure you cherish these opportunities, because it's not so much like losing sucks, and it's going to happen. Or you win them all, and you still got to turn the gear in, right?
That's
hard
sword.
too, right? I mean, it's the turning in a gear is never an enjoyable day. So I'm like, just make sure that you enjoy every single day you're out here. Find time to find some joy. And soak in some of this stuff, because none of us take it for granted, because once it's gone, you kind of get back in a leak. And you're like, we've been through it a lot. But no, it's just been a good week, and it's a great group. I've said it before, I'm very blessed with this group, but also the coaches and the community and the success we've had and the support that we've all had. We can't ask for anything better. Even you. I mean, we're very grateful for what you do for us. And I know that's probably hard for you to hear sometimes, but no, we do appreciate all that you do. And, it's a special place we are in town, and you know that, and you're part of what makes it special.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome. It was something nice I said, so remember that, everybody. I did say something nice about it.
Coach, congratulations. Keep it rolling.
We'll do our best.
That'll do it for the Nick Delinski Show this week. We'll see you Friday at home at Malone.